So I want to start off today's video with a very simple thought experiment, which is going to illustrate everything that there is to talk about in this video. So the thought experiment goes like this. Imagine, if you will, you pick up a random person, not pick up in a way that you're going to date the person, but you pick a random person that you know. Let it be a boyfriend, let it be a girlfriend, let it be an acquaintance, let it be a parent, let it be whomever. You pick up a random person and you ask him, do you want to learn about something cool about the universe? Or do you want to learn about, there's a cool thing out there called quantum mechanics. Do you want to learn about quantum mechanics? I mean, quantum mechanics is a very bad example because not everybody's interested in quantum mechanics. But let's take, for example, do you want to learn about evolution? For example, if you're a biology nerd, do you want to learn about evolution? And you talk to that person, they're like, yeah, evolution is really cool. I'd like to research more deeply into that topic. Right? According to different interests, different people have different interests, but if you just take an average person, on some level, they do have that curiosity within them. They do have that desire, so to speak, to know. It's not like people just don't care about knowledge at all. They want to know stuff. That's why science YouTube channels are so popular. People want to know stuff. Okay, let's continue with the thought experiment. And you talk to that guy. He's like, yeah, I want to know about the universe. And then you hand him a book about whatever subject that they're interested in. Let it be biology, let it be evolution, let it be quantum mechanics. Okay, here's a book that you can read that teaches you everything that you need to know about the subject. Now here's the book. And then at first glance, that guy or that girl is going to be like, hell yeah, I'm going to read this book. I want to understand this topic. I want to understand the entire implication of the topic. But guess what? They take that book, they go back home, a week later, you call them back, or you meet him again in person, and ask him, wait, how did you go with that book? The book that I gave you last week. How much have you read? Tell me about it. Tell me about it. You're very excited because you've read that book, and then you think it's a really great book, and you recommended this book to that person. But guess what? They stare at you with a blank look, or they stare at you with like this confused look. And at the end, they had to admit that they've only read about 5 to 10 pages. They've only read about 5 to 10 pages. And they come up with some rationalizations such as, I just didn't have time to read, I don't want to read it, or I have too much crap going on. I have so much stuff going on. So you see, it is not that people don't want to learn. It is only because there's a thing that stands in their way between themselves and learning. There's a thing that stands between themselves and learning. It is not that everyone just don't give a jack shit about the universe. If you pick a random person, if he's curious, he wants to know about this stuff. But it is this obstacle that we're going to devote the rest of this episode to that's really going to illustrate the difficulty that's involved when we embark on this journey of self-education. So here's my claim. The reason why people don't self-educate isn't because they're dumb, nor is it because they don't care about the universe at all. The reason why people don't self-educate is because they fear solitude and quietude. It's because they fear solitude and quietude. So let's bring back the previous thought experiment, for example. The previous thought experiment goes something like this. The girl or the guy took that book from you, and initially they seem as though they're very happy they're very excited to learn this piece of knowledge. Okay, then they took the book home, they read it, they read about 10 pages, and then guess what? There's a fear that grips them. There's a fundamental existential fear that grips them, that comes in terms with them, that basically clamped them down. At the end, they had to give in to this fear because they're not used to this state of quietude and solitude. They're not used to just sitting in a room by themselves. They're not used to being quiet. All that they're used to is distractions. Okay, let's talk about distraction for a minute to really link together with this concept of solitude and quietude. Second thought experiment. You're sitting in a room and there's a giant AC humming or air conditioner humming in the background. Just like really loud air conditioning. And you're sitting at a desk, you're reading a book. Okay, that air conditioning is humming. Okay, that's kind of cool. It's kind of noisy, but your brain has adapted itself to the environment. If a noise source is constant, your brain does a really good job of adapting itself to that noise source. Where at the end, you don't even realize that the humming AC is there. You don't even realize that there's this huge humming noise coming out of somewhere. You're just sitting there, you're just on your phone, you're just doing your stuff without realizing that AC humming noise is there. However, if the AC now gets turned off, all of a sudden you've realized that, holy God, there's a humming thing in the background all along. Okay, I didn't realize that before, but okay, whatever. I guess that's done. Then you adapt to the quiet frame of mind. So this distraction that we've been talking about all along here, this distraction really is analogous to that humming machine. Really is analogous to that humming air conditioner. You don't realize that it's there. You don't realize this piece of distraction is there. And the distraction, substitute your own example, your distraction to watch TV, to play video games, to have something humming in the background, to have like a YouTube video playing in the background as you're doing your homework, even though you know for sure that you don't really need to listen to that video as you're doing your homework. See, substitute any distraction, if you will. Distraction nowadays, it's just like that humming AC in the background. You're plugged in into your headphones without knowing it. You have a song playing in the background as you're doing stuff without even knowing it. You have a TV show playing in the background without even knowing it. So it is as if our brains have adapted themselves to constant humming noise in the background. And these noises are technological rather than analog. Rather than a giant AC humming, it's a podcast that plays in your ear. It's a TV show that you know that you're not really that interested in, but you keep it on anyways. You might be wondering, why do we keep it on if we don't need it? Well, we fear solitude and quietude. We fear it very much. We fear it so much that we just have to have something humming in the background, like that giant AC humming, so we can feel the sense of security, that we can neglect our responsibility to face this solitude and quietude head on. And here is where a lot of people don't get to self-educate, don't get to self-actualize, is because they fear the solitude so much that they neglect, they put away, they shun away from any opportunity that they have to sit down quietly and to read a book, sit down quietly and to think, sit down quietly and to contemplate and to journal. This is the entire thing right here. This is perhaps one of the biggest obstacles that we all have to face. It's this thing. It's the constant humming background of anxiety. Constant humming background of fear of missing out from social media, fear of missing out from TV shows, fear of missing out from anything, from texting. Texting is especially infamous because you're always expecting something to pop up, and that expectation creates this fear of stepping away or stepping into solitude and quietude, where you can truly start to self-educate. Now, the last thought experiment, which is going to tie everything back together very nicely, very, very cohesively, which is the thought experiment of actually you sitting in a room by yourself. Imagine, if you will, this room that I have right here, I have a chair. It's kind of like a reader's chair that I sit on every night, once in a while, to get some reading done. Imagine, if you will, you're sitting in a room where there's no computer, there's no phone, there's no TV, there are no gaming consoles, but a chair and a bookshelf. You sit down, you're getting the heebie-jeebies in your chest because withdrawal symptoms are kicking in. You're not used to such quietude and solitude. But then right now you make a very mature decision. You face that solitude head on. So you sort of embrace it. You don't have to read a book if you don't want to, but you just embrace that fear of solitude. Just embrace that overall restlessness. Just embrace that overall, I don't know what I'm doing. I should be doing something, but I'm not doing it. Embrace that fear of having that humming noise removed. That contrast, that stark contrast of having noises and not having noises. Embrace that contrast and embrace that sharp decline of mental stimulation. And a few days passes, 3 days passes, a week passes, where now you start to realize you don't need those things at all. You don't need them. And now we're getting to a really cool place. That process of detoxification is the process of developing the capability of sitting in a room by yourself without a humming air conditioner in the background, without a humming computer in the background, without a humming podcast in the background, without browsing the internet compulsively. That's a really cool place to get to because think about it, if you can sit down and be chill, if you can sit down and be happy, if you can sit down and be even-keeled, imagine this time around, imagine actually going back to your computer. If your baseline happiness, if your baseline tolerance of stimulation is already pretty darn high, imagine adding computer on top of that. You're going to feel a lot happier when you're now engaged with texting, with social media, with internet. You're going to be a lot happier. But it is not really the case that you're going to be happier. Your overall goal is to seek more happiness out of your stimulations and distractions. But really, if you go back right now, if you develop this capacity to be quiet and to be peaceful with solitude, then really, if you go pick up a book right now, you're going to have this, it's very hard to explain, a very subtle taste and a sort of very inexplainable inner peace. I'm sort of sounding like I'm some spiritual hippie guru, but no, really, this is something really practical. There's an inner sort of stillness, idleness, this inner really deep sense of concentration that you start to slowly develop. And with that concentration, you can do anything. You can finish your homework on time. You can read the books that you want. You can self-educate. You have so much more time to spend with family, with friends, with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So basically, this capacity to deal with the lack of humming noise is going to make you more intentional with your time. It's going to make you more in tune with self-education, more in tune with yourself, so to speak, and more in tune with your surroundings. And with that capacity that you've developed, then can you move on to deeper levels of self-education. Then can you move on to deeper levels of becoming an autodidact. Then can you actualize, maybe you have a dream of speaking 5 different languages. Then can you really actualize that dream of learning all the languages because you're free from the humming noise, because you're free from this humming noise from wasting your time. And you're no longer afraid of having those noise, of devoiding your free time of those noises. Now you're totally free. So just to wrap everything up, develop a capability or a capacity for solitude. It's going to pay you back dividendly in the long term. It's going to really, I've been experiencing this in my own life recently, and it's quite sweet. I can just sit there. The thought of just sitting there and just be still and happy. It's almost, we're so out of touch with this that I bring up to people kind of laugh at me. People say I'm a boring person with a stick up my ass. Because why would you sit there if you can, go on your computer? Well, this is a deeper sort of satisfaction that most people don't, most young adults, or most of us, don't really get to experience. And I'm pretty lucky to experience that. And that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. It's really, it's indescribable. It's indescribable. You have to go do it yourself to experience it. It's really a deep sense of groundedness. So I'm not going to waste more of your time here. I'm going to be shutting this camera off. Hope you guys learned something from this video. Hope you guys apply what you've learned. Hope you guys, follow through with all the thought experiments. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this message. Robin here from the Quirky Inquiry. And now I should be signing off right now.